Ready for a deep dive into a world of madness and mayhem.
Sounds right up my alley.
Perfect. Because today, we're tackling Joker. Both the 2019 original and that chilling sequel that everyone's talking about.
Yeah, the sequel really went there, didn't it?
No kidding. And to really get inside Arthur Fleck's head and maybe confront some uncomfortable truths about our own world, we're bringing in the brilliant and kind of terrifying ideas of philosopher Jean Baudrillard.
You know you're in for a wild ride when you bring Baudrillard into the mix.
Right. So for those of us who might not be familiar with his work, can you give us the crash course? Who is this guy, and what's all this about hyperreality?
Okay, so imagine a world where we're so bombarded with images, symbols, and simulations that they start to feel more real than reality itself.
Okay, I think I'm getting there, but give me an example.
Think about scrolling through your social media feeds, right? All those picture-perfect lives, those exotic vacations, those perfectly filtered selfies. It's easy to start feeling like your own WN life pales in comparison, like it's somehow less real or less valid.
Oh, tell me about it. I swear half the people I follow seem to be living on a beach somewhere, sipping cocktails, and I'm over here like, wait, I thought we were all just trying to survive Monday.
Exactly. And that's Baudrillard's whole point. He called it hyperreality, where those simulations, those carefully constructed images and narratives, they start to replace our actual lived experiences.
And it creates this weird disconnect, right? Where we're craving authenticity, genuine connection, but we're surrounded by this.
A desert of the real.
Yes, the desert of the real. It's like we're starving for something real, something with substance, but all we're being fed is this endless buffet of empty spectacle.
And that brings us to Joker. I mean, you've got Arthur Fleck already struggling with his mental health, his place in the world, trying to find his footing in this decaying, chaotic Gotham City.
And the first film, it does such a masterful job of blurring those lines between what's really happening to Arthur and what's taking place inside his head.
Oh, absolutely. That's what makes it so brilliant. Like that scene where Arthur imagines himself on the Murray Franklin show. Is it real? Is it all in his head? We're never really sure.
It messes with your mind. And I remember reading this analysis on YouTube where they were questioning those scenes of Arthur being bullied as a kid. Like, did those events even happen, or were they figments of his fractured mental state?
And the film never gives us a definitive answer. It leaves us wondering, questioning, doubting.
Which, when you think about it, is exactly what Baudrillard was getting at. In a hyper-real world, where truth is constantly being filtered through layers of media, technology, and our own subjective experiences, it becomes almost impossible to separate fact from fiction.
Exactly. We're left to wander this desert of the real, constantly questioning our perceptions, unsure of what to believe or who to trust.
And that's what makes Joker so effective and kind of terrifying. It holds up this cracked mirror to our own technologically driven, image-saturated world and forces us to ask some really uncomfortable questions. Like, in a world where simulations are often more seductive than reality, are we all just one bad day away from becoming the Joker?
Whoa, that's a question for the ages, isn't it? And one that the sequel digs into even deeper. And that's what's so unsettling, right? The lines get blurrier and we're left questioning our own sanity.
Okay, but before we totally spiral down that rabbit hole, let's talk about the sequel. Because if the first Joker film captured this growing sense of unease, of disillusionment,
Oh, yeah.
the sequel turns it up to 11.
It's like we're living in a post-COVID world now, right? A
Yeah.
world that's already primed for paranoia and distrust.
Totally, and the film doesn't shy away from that, not one bit.
No kidding. So we're thrown back into Arthur's world, or should I say his mindscape. He's locked up in Arkham Asylum, and things get seriously surreal. You're telling me? We're talking full-blown musical numbers, elaborate fantasy sequences. It's like his mind is constructing these entire alternate realities to escape the bleakness of Arkham.
Yeah, like those fantasies become his coping mechanism, but for the audience, it's almost too much.
Right, because it starts to make you question, are WE still grounded in reality? Or are we getting swept away by Arthur's delusions?
It's disorienting, and I
That's
think
weird.
that's what makes the sequel so effective, but also pretty disturbing. It taps into that feeling of being unmoored, ungrounded, adrift in a sea of misinformation and manufactured realities.
Exactly. It's like Baudrillard's desert of the real on steroids.
Mhm.
We're surrounded by these simulations, these carefully curated versions of reality, and it's eroding our ability to connect with what's genuine, what's authentic.
It's like, are we even capable of recognizing authenticity anymore? Or have we become so accustomed to the curated, the filtered, the simulated, that anything real just feels off?
And that's the question, right? Because in a hyperreal world where image is everything and authenticity is a commodity, maybe we're all just one bad day away from becoming the Joker.
It's like we're losing our grip on what's real, you know? And the scariest part is we're almost numb to it.
That's the insidious thing about hyperreality. It creeps in slowly, subtly, until one day you wake up and realize you're surrounded by simulations of simulations.
And it makes you wonder, are we all just playing parts in some grand cosmic joke?
Well, that brings us back to the Joker's laughter, doesn't it? Because it's not just the laughter of a madman, it's the laughter of someone who sees the absurdity of it all, the hollowness behind the facade.
Yeah, it's like he's pointing at the emperor and saying, look, he's not wearing any clothes, but instead of being horrified, we just kind of shrug and take another selfie.
And that's what makes his laughter so unsettling. It's a challenge to our carefully constructed realities, our carefully curated online personas.
Because deep down, maybe we know it's all a charade, right? We know that those perfectly filtered photos, those witty tweets, they don't tell the whole story.
Ah,
But we cling to them anyway because it's easier than confronting the void.
exactly. And the Joker, he embodies that void. He's a walking, talking reminder of the fragility of meaning, the elusiveness of truth. And his laughter is like a virus, infecting us with doubt, forcing us to confront the absurdity of it all.
So where does that leave us? Are we all doomed to wander this desert of the real, chasing after empty spectacles, laughing nervously into the void?
Not necessarily. I think Baudrillard and these Joker films, they're not trying to depress us, they're trying to wake us up.
To what?
To the possibility of something more, something real, something authentic.
But how do we find that in a world saturated with hyperreality?
By questioning everything, by looking beyond the surface, beyond the simulations, and seeking out genuine connection, genuine meaning. It's not easy, but it's possible.
It's like we have to become detectives of our own reality.
Exactly. We have to be willing to peel back the layers, to question our perceptions, to challenge the narratives that we're being fed, because the truth, as they say, is out there.
Somewhere beyond the desert of the real. Well, on that note, I think we've all earned ourselves a break from reality. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Remember, keep questioning everything.